Esther, the Greek version, chapter 4, with addition C. When Mordecai learned of all that had been done, he tore his clothes, put on sackcloth, and sprinkled himself with ashes. Then he rushed through the street of the city, shouting loudly, "An innocent nation is being destroyed." He got as far as the king's gate, and there he stopped, because no one was allowed to enter the courtyard clothed in sackcloth and ashes. And in every province where the king's proclamation had been posted, there was a loud cry of mourning and lamentation among the Jews, and they put on sackcloth and ashes. When the queen's maids and eunuchs came and told her, she was deeply troubled by what she heard had happened, and sent some clothes to Mordecai to put on instead of sackcloth. But he would not consent. Then Esther summoned Hachratheus, the eunuch who attended her, and ordered him to get accurate information for her from Mordecai. So Mordecai told him what had happened, and how Haman had promised to pay 10,000 talents into the royal treasury to bring about the destruction of the Jews. He also gave him a copy of what had been posted in Susa for their destruction to show to Esther, and he told him to charge her to go in to the king and plead for his favor in behalf of the people. "Remember," he said, "the days when you were an ordinary person, being brought up under my care. For Haman, who stands next to the king, has spoken against us and demands our death. Call upon the Lord, then speak to the king in our behalf, and save us from death." Hachratheus went in and told Esther all these things. And she said to him, "Go to Mordecai and say, 'All nations of the empire know that if any man or woman goes to the king inside the inner court without being called, there is no escape for that person. Only the one to whom the king stretches out the golden scepter is safe. And it is now 30 days since I was called to go to the king.'" When Hachratheus delivered her entire message to Mordecai, Mordecai told him to go back and say to her, "Esther, do not say to yourself that you alone among all the Jews will escape alive, for if you keep quiet at such a time as this, help and protection will come to the Jews from another quarter, but you and your father's family will perish. Yet who knows whether it was not for such a time as this that you were made queen?" Then Esther gave the messenger this answer to take back to Mordecai: "Go and gather all the Jews who are in Susa, and fast on my behalf. For 3 days and nights do not eat or drink, and my maids and I will also go without food. After that I will go to the king, contrary to the law, even if I must die." So Mordecai went away and did what Esther had told him to do. Then Mordecai prayed to the Lord, calling to remembrance all the works of the Lord. He said, "O Lord, Lord, you rule as king over all things, for the universe is in your power, and there is no one who can oppose you when it is your will to save Israel. For you have made heaven and earth, and every wonderful thing under heaven. You are Lord of all, and there is no one who can resist you, the Lord. You know all things. You know, O Lord, that it was not in insolence or pride, or for any love of glory that I did this, and refused to bow down to this proud Haman. For I would have been willing to kiss the soles of his feet to save Israel. But I did this so that I might not set human glory above the glory of God. And I will not bow down to anyone but you, who are my Lord. And I will not do these things in pride. And now, O Lord God and King, God of Abraham, spare your people. For the eyes of our foes are upon us to annihilate us, and they desire to destroy the inheritance that has been yours from the beginning. Do not neglect your portion, which you redeemed for yourself out of the land of Egypt. Hear my prayer, and have mercy upon your inheritance. Turn our mourning into feasting, that we may live and sing praise to your name, O Lord. Do not destroy the lips of those who praise you." And all Israel cried out mightily, for their death was before their eyes. Then Queen Esther, seized with deadly anxiety, fled to the Lord. She took off her splendid apparel, and put on the garments of distress and mourning, and instead of costly perfumes, she covered her head with ashes and dung, and she utterly humbled her body. Every part that she loved to adorn she covered with her tangled hair. She prayed to the Lord God of Israel, and said, "O my Lord, You only are our King. Help me, who am alone and have no helper but you, for my danger is in my hand. Ever since I was born I have heard in the tribe of my family that you, O Lord, took Israel out of all the nations, and our ancestors from among all their forebears, for an everlasting inheritance, and that you did for them all that you promised. And now we have sinned before you, and you have handed us over to our enemies, because we glorified their gods. You are righteous, O Lord, and now they are not satisfied that we are in bitter slavery, but they have covenanted with their idols to abolish what your mouth has ordained, and to destroy your inheritance, to stop the mouths of those who praise you, and to quench your altar and the glory of your house, to open the mouths of the nations for the praise of vain idols, and to magnify forever a mortal king. O Lord, do not surrender your scepter to what has no being, and do not let them laugh at our downfall, but turn their plan against them, and make an example of him who began this against us. Remember, O Lord, make yourself known in this time of our affliction, and give me courage, O King of the gods, and Master of all dominion. Put eloquent speech in my mouth before the lion, and turn his heart to hate the man who is fighting against us, so that there may be an end of him and those who agree with him. But save us by your hand, and help me, who am alone and have no helper but you, O Lord. You have knowledge of all things, and you know that I hate the splendor of the wicked, and abhor the bed of the uncircumcised and of any alien. You know my necessity, that I abhor the sign of my proud position, which is upon my head on days when I appear in public. I abhor it like a filthy rag, and I do not wear it on the days when I am at leisure. And your servant has not eaten at Haman's table, and I have not honored the king's feast, or drunk the wine of libations. Your servant has had no joy since the day that I was brought here until now, except in you, O Lord God of Abraham. O God, whose might is over all, hear the voice of the despairing, and save us from the hands of evildoers, and save me from my fear.